Hello, multi-mingling morders of morders. And thank you to Damo for the malt mention, introducing Ralphie Review 922 Extras, which is the concluding video on a 7-week series of reviews of just a general random array of single malts that you're likely to see either online, on an online retailer, or when you go into a specialist whisky shop wherever you are. So we're dealing with more recognisable brands and all their dazzling permutations and variations, because you're getting more and more of that. And you're dealing with some names that are highly visible, like Bowmore and Glenmorangie, and others that are far less visible, like Tom and Toll, or Tom and Towel, and Craigellachie. There's one bottle missing from here, and it's the Tom and Towel 14-year-old, unchill filtered, natural coloured edition. It's a wonderfully decent single malt whisky, straightforward, get some decent substance, easily accessible, and that is why I gave the bottle away and shared it around members of the local archery club. Because this is what you do, you share the love, you share the malt moments, and then the goodness comes back in the form of free firewood and good advice, etc. It's what they used to call bartering in the old days. So here's the lineup, and if you walk into any shop anywhere in the world, these are the whiskies you're going to see. If you're travelling through the airport and you stop off at the shop, you know, the one beside the perfume area, which absolutely stinks so much of chemicals that you've got to hold a handkerchief over your nose to walk through it. And all the bright lights, and they've got the floors now with little sparkles in them so that you can see that you're walking down the yellow brick road. The amount of obvious psychological, bought and paid for consultant time effort that goes into airports beggars belief. And the reason is simple, because airports are big businesses and they charge a very, very high rent for anything in their premises. They see themselves as a throughput hub of footfall. This is all the calculations, this is the way they speak. And when you walk into these whisky shops, the travel retail shops, you're going to have really helpful staff who care about what they're doing, but you're not going to get a lot of help compared to someone who's really spent time with whisky and understands whisky. There's a difference between someone who works in a shop who knows about some whisky and someone who works in a shop that is there to sell whisky, right? And it's in the messaging, it's in the body language, it's in the calibre of communication. And this is where real sales people are an absolute vital component to messaging and delivering whisky to the customer. They are the interface. These are the people who can prevent you buying awful whiskies like this and like this. These are the people who can point out and say, have you tried this? And you look at it and you say, no, I've not tried that. I hadn't even thought about that. I've never seen that before. They say, well, we think you should, look at the price, 17 years old. Of course, it's gone up now because of the Ralphie effect. And yes, malt mates, that does piss me off. So the Tom and Tool's missing, but all the rest are here. Glenmorangie, generally a reliable brand. I was shocked at the woodiness of this cognac cask Think about one by minute. Cognac cask finish. Glenmorangie are consistent. This is a thing about distillers. It takes you quite a number of years to discover who are the more reliable distillers, who are the distilleries that will give you a good version, a good batch, followed by a good batch, followed by a good batch, followed by a good batch. Glenmorangie are good at doing that. Bowmore, no chance. You can buy a bottle of 15-year-old Bowmore and it can taste like the nectar of the gods. You buy the next batch and it's crap. And there's a simple reason for that, malt mates. Batch inconsistency. When they're compiling the batches, they're not making the time, they're not taking the time, and they are not committing the cask quality inventory that they have to sustain the quality of the bottling. And they're papering over the cracks with disingenuous, superficial, flannelly marketing featuring luxury car marks, where they're more than happy, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, here's the 21-year-old Aston Martin, whatever. And by the way, it's got 35-year-old single malt whiskey in it, but shh, don't tell anyone. Are you, seriously, people, seriously, are you kidding me? That is such lazy marketing. It really is. Shame on Bowmore. Disgraceful. As I said recently when I was interviewed by another whisky review channel, I said when you taste a whisky like Bowmore or Talisker or Lagavulin or Glenlivet, just imagine to yourself what it would taste like if Springbank made it. If there was a policy for quality. You see, the important thing is Scotch whisky got its reputation because it made its reputation, and it made its reputation by being very, very good at what it was. But then they let standards slip. Historically, they had a whisky rush back in the 19th century, and it all ended in tears because during Prohibition they were rushing out from Campbelltown and its 24 distilleries the shittiest whisky that distilleries could possibly make. But that only lasts so long. And what we're seeing is, because of the malt rush at the moment, and that's what it is, whisky has never been more fashionable. It's never been more lucrative. It's never been more bullshitted than it is now. Beware of this, malt mates. Because when we walk into a shop and we see thousands and thousands of bottles, we've got to ask ourselves one question: where the hell do we start? And we start at the beginning with something simple and recognisable, reliable and predictable, like Glenmorangie 10-year-old, like Anne 10-year-old. And then we'll discover Glencadam 10-year-old. And see, once you've discovered Arran and you've discovered Glencadam 10-year-old, you will know, because of the quality, because of the properly made single malts that these brands are, then you will know afterwards what a bad whisky tastes like. And here it is, Glengrant, 15-year-old, seriously, first edition, batch proof. I can't believe they even allowed this to reach the market. This brand is owned by Gruppo Campari, and in my opinion, and it is an opinion, that is not a happy ship. And happy ships don't sail so well. Then you've got other situations where, particularly when you start out, you look at the packaging and the grandness and the messaging. That's with Glengoyne. And you know it's a good whisky. You've been following your malt mates and you've been asking people who are experienced in Glengoyne, and it's unpeated and they run slow stills. In fact, they claim to run the slowest stills in Scotland. That's what they say. We run the slowest stills in Scotland. Prove it. I don't believe that for a minute. You're making statements that you cannot back up with facts. In other words, flannel. And the flannel goes into the box. I can't show you the box because it's now squashed flat as a pancake for environmental recycling. This is very important. But when you see brands that are getting bigger boxes and cards and pull-outs and tug-outs and spare corks and all the rest of it, beware, because they're taking the quality out of what they're making, and they're putting it as packaging and sparkles, like little sprinkles of pixie dust over the top of their brands. And it's once you start to see the pattern, and once you get bored of it, Maltmates, and it won't take long. Believe me, it will not take long. You will start to see how condescending, patronising and insulting of your intelligence that it truly is. Because they're aiming at the dumb consumer. And the dumb consumer is the passive consumer, is not actually their market. Their market is the people who appreciate and understand the qualities of complexity of smell and taste, the signatures, the array of and integration of sensations in a product. That is the market. But they're becoming bipolar about it. They've got split loyalties. They want to charge the customer, but they want to provide to the consumer. And it's not the first time. You'll walk into a specialist whisky shop and you'll pay a price for a good whisky only to see it suddenly appear on a supermarket shelf. A third discount just before Christmas. It's a slippery slope for the distillers if they commit to the passive consumer market. They're committing to the presentation of mediocrity to a market that's looking for mediocrity and buying into it. And there's not a lot of profit in that. The profit is in sticking to the principles of what made Scotch whisky's reputation in the first place. Of consistently, and it is consistently bottling quality of smell, quality of taste in all its permutations, but keep it quality in your bottlings with environmentally sensitive presentation, in other words, intelligent presentation, not boring bullshit presentation. And Maltmates, when you really get your head around this, it's going to make it so much easier to walk into a whisky shop, because you'll scan the shelves and already half the whiskies, whether it be the price, the bullshit presentation, the excessive caramel colourant, always accompanied by chill filtration, the 40% instead of 46, 40% bare basic legal minimum. Any 21-year-old whisky, any whisky over £100, if it's bottled at 40%, just walk away. Don't even think about a second time. You're exercising your radar. You're scanning away your radar. 40%. At that price, at that age, forget it. And you're narrowing down and narrowing down. And when you do, you become more and more aware of where the quality is really at. And furthermore, a lot of that quality isn't that expensive. I'm Ralphie. I hope you found this interesting. I've found this whole series quite interesting because it's allowed me to present some less well-known whiskies which show great promise, to expose other whiskies which are trying to bullshit us, and to basically take the malt marks from 80 down to 72 because the quality of the whisky in the bottle actually merited that malt mark. I will now go back to reviewing whiskies that I want to review. Not whiskies that are a cross representative of what's out generally available on the shelves of shops all around the world. It's such a mixed bag, and it's a precarious journey, and it's all very well making a bad purchase now and again, but see, when it happens more and more, my advice to you is you're being betrayed by the producers of Scotch whisky, so walk away and don't give them your custom. Or even better, follow the OSWAs, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, and let the experienced community of maltsters share their knowledge with you so that you can stand on the shoulders of giants and see what they see, so that you know the good guys, the good producers, the producers that respect you and don't hold you in contempt as a consumer, the consumer. How patronising. There's no excuse for it. Oh boy, I tell you what, it's been a hard slog, and I'm glad I'm done now. My next review is going to be something just lovely and delicious, and I'm going to relax and chill out. I'm going to mellow out a little bit, malt mates. I'm not going to apologise for some obscure stuff that I'm reviewing, and I'll be reviewing some rum soon, by the way, just so as you know, because I bought a bottle recently and it was delicious. Still checking it over, and I look forward to presenting it to you and telling you a little bit more about it and rum in general, because we've got to spread our wings. Why do we spread our wings? So we can fly, malt mates. So we can fly.